an area like Northeast Ohio when you're a young professional. Not,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, I have to get out of here because there's nothing to do. I don't really feel that aspect as much, but it's more for me. It's more or less like there's only so high I can go here.
Mhm.
So, and I know I have a lot of other friends who live in places like Columbus and DC and Chicago, and like they left because like they could only go so far. And I know I worked in Cleveland for almost 2 years, and when I was up there, even in a large city like Cleveland, it was like there's only so far I could go if I were to live here and work here. And I was hanging out with friends recently, and one of them mentioned like, oh yeah, every time a nonprofit has a job opening in the Valley, everyone like all the same 100 young adults apply to this job opening because like that's kind of all there is unless you want to work in a factory for $10 an hour. Which I mean, I feel like
Mhm.
the manufacturing is somewhat coming back to an extent throughout really the whole state, but especially here in Northeast Ohio. But unfortunately, like I mean, I'm 27 years old, and a lot of my friends are folks who they didn't go to school after high school, and or some of them did, and like they work in factories and they don't make much money. And it's like, either you work in a factory for $10 an hour or you work in a nursing home like I did for a few years and you make $9 an hour. And some of them think, oh, this
Mhm.
is a good job. Others know that it's bull. I feel like this is why we see a lot of people leaving the state. I do have friends who work in manufacturing, but they work in like Florida or even West Virginia, where depending on where you're at in West Virginia, getting decent pay as opposed to here where you make $10 an hour and a year later you'll make 10, 15 an hour. So I
Mhm.
mean honestly, I feel like I haven't seen anyone with a great jobs plan that's running for governor at the moment. That's like, oh, here's how we're going to put people back to work with good paying jobs.
This is Lorraine. Also, the oil and gas industry has, created somewhat of a little bit of a boom here in Northeast Ohio for a period of time, although I think it's perhaps slowing down a little bit now, but for better or for worse, that has injected a lot of money into the economy here, and it brought a lot of jobs. Just a few years ago, the housing market actually tightened up because so many people were coming in with that industry. Now, obviously, that has a whole, level of, there are a lot of concerns with that industry and a lot of environmental issues and a lot of things that people are concerned about, like we have the pipeline. A lot of people were fighting the pipeline and everything, but it did kind of give us a several-year injection of money into the economy. Unfortunately, I don't think that it's going to have any longevity. That industry tends to move on once they've taken everything that they can.
All right. Well, I think this has been a really good conversation. I've been excited to hear a lot more about Ohio. Are there any sort of last things that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure people know about Ohio politics?
I just want to throw out that we were talking about candidates that we're excited about, and I'm just going to say this really quickly. In District 7, I'm personally very excited about Ken Harbaugh. He is a Democrat running against Bob Gibbs in District 7, and he is a really exciting candidate, and I know him personally, and I like him very much, and I think that he's going to be fantastic, and I'm really excited to watch his campaign over the next year.
I just want to say, I know I make fun of Youngstown sometimes, but I'm from Youngstown, so I get to make fun of it. And I just want to let our listeners know who aren't from Youngstown that there's some cool things going on in Youngstown today. And like the Youngstown Business Incubator, which is sort of providing startup and capital for small businesses in Northeastern Ohio. There's a lot of exciting research going on at Youngstown State University. My dad is a biologist there and is 3D printing human tissue in a 3D printer. So there's some really cool innovations going on in Youngstown. Everybody should not necessarily stereotype it as empty and worthless because there's some cool stuff going on.
This is Eli, and you know what? I'll echo that, and also bring in a candidate that I'm also excited about, and he's someone who's been around for quite a long time. But Tim Ryan just recently tried to unseat Nancy Pelosi for the Democratic minority leader in the House. Really excited about him. I think he's exactly what the country needs to move in the correct direction. No discredit to Nancy Pelosi because she's fantastic, but I'm excited to see what he does. Youngstown, Ashtabula, that whole northeast corner is really a mirror reflection of the entire country, like Mark said before, and it's a great area.
Yeah, and Tim Ryan is very exciting. I'm the person on Twitter who tweets at him like all the time to run for president. So if you ever see a crazy person on Twitter tweeting at Tim Ryan to run for president, that's me.
I would definitely say don't count out Youngstown. I'm connected with several activist groups down there, and they're very active. So if anybody's feeling alone in Youngstown, do a little search on Facebook or hit me up, Lorraine Wilburn. I'm on Facebook, and I'll get you connected because there are definitely a lot of people very active and very plugged in, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on down there. A lot of great people.
Yeah, ditto on that. I mean, being based here in the Valley and being from this area, you've got groups like Progress MV that are doing awesome work. You've got groups like the Valley Voices United for Change that's doing awesome work. They're very more community organizing based with a strong electoral focus. They're awesome groups that I've enjoyed working with for the past year. I feel like the Valley, Youngstown, Warren, going all the way, this isn't the Valley so much, but Akron and Canton areas, there's a lot of great things happening throughout Northeast Ohio and throughout the state, really. And yeah, I wouldn't discount this area. I heard somebody recently on TV say something about Ohio just being full of corn. I'm like, there's so much more to Ohio than corn. I don't think I ever saw corn. I don't think I ever saw corn grown in the state of Ohio until 4 years ago.
But I will say Ohio has the best corn. Illinois corn has nothing on Ohio corn. So let's not discount the corn too much, guys. The final word here is, Mom, go find Lorraine. There are other Democrats in Stark County.
Come and find me, Mom. I'm here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. This has been really great. And I'm really glad you're all able to join us for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back. For this segment, we are excited to talk to Jen from Ohio Young Democrats. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great to have you. Tell us a little bit about Ohio Young Democrats. How many chapters do you have? What kind of work do you guys do? What areas do you hope to grow in?
How do you define young?
So, yes, that is a question we get quite often. So we are sort of the official youth arm of the Ohio Democratic Party. So that means that we range in membership. We have some members who have just joined when they turn 16, and you age out when you turn 40. So we have a huge group of people. Some of our chapters have a number of high school students, and they primarily organize in schools. And then some of our other chapters are primarily made up of young professionals or young parents. So we sort of span the spectrum of organizing around young people in Ohio. We have a convention every year in the spring where our groups officially charter with us. So my chartering numbers are a little out of date, but our goal is by our convention in May to have 44 of our state's 88 counties covered with chapters, which for us is a huge increase from where we were just 2 years ago. We only had 8 chapters. So we've really been able to use 2016 and 2017, which, a lot of us call the year of resistance, to build and grow and really increase our numbers. So official members, we have over 1,000 active members in chapters across the state of Ohio, including in all 10 of the largest counties in the state and some of the smallest.
I'm very excited that I get to be a young Democrat. So that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The young Republicans and the young Libertarians all go up to 40 as well. And so for a while, you aged out when you turned 36. But we have so many amazing candidates who run, who think about running, once they've really hit their mid-30s, who people were calling them young Democrats, but They weren't technically Young Democrats. We were helping them anyway. So we had a debate as an organization a couple of years ago and decided that it just made sense that if you were in your 30s, you're still a young person. So, we want to have you and help you and provide any level of support that we can.
All right. So if I move back to Ohio, I've got 6 more months to be young.
I got 8 more years.
Yeah.
There you go.
I've been joking with my husband that I'm going to move back to Ohio to run for office because I'm in Chicago. There's already a lot of Democrats in power. So.
We'll always take more Democrats. We will not say no.
So what is your background? How did you come to join the Ohio Young Democrats?
So actually, speaking of, Chicago, I grew up about an hour northwest of Chicago in a town called Woodstock. It's where the movie Groundhog Day was filmed. When I graduated high school, I really wanted to get out of the state. So I moved to Ohio to go to school. I went to Miami University, which is located between Cincinnati and Dayton. Really, it was 2004. We had such a competitive presidential race going on. And I just got engaged in politics on campus and then sort of fell in love with it. And so I've been organizing either with college Dems and then with the Young Democrats ever since. I moved to Columbus after I graduated and I've been here now since 2008. So I ran our local chapter of our Young Democrats group for 5 years and then was basically asked to step up to run our state group back in 2016. So that's sort of the gist of how I got involved in Young Democrats. It's a really unique and special organization that gives young people the opportunity to learn more about the political process in a way that you don't get in some other organizations. You really get to meet and engage with candidates and learn what it's like to help on a campaign for local office. And then you also get to work directly with your local county parties to see how they recruit and endorse candidates and how they fundraise and how they do all kinds of really neat things. So it's been an awesome opportunity for me and for our members to sort of learn how things work in politics and then also to meet some pretty awesome, young people to expand our personal networks and friend groups.
So what are the kind of issues that the Young Democrats as a whole, I'm sure there's lots of issues, but, sort of the really salient issues that you're hearing people talk about and people worrying about in Ohio?
Mm-hmm. So when we took over in 2016, we did a survey of our membership just to sort of say, what are the things that we should be talking about? What are the issues when we're not sort of in get out the vote mode or we're not, focused exclusively on campaigns? What are the things that you think we should be focusing our efforts on, particularly when it comes to, every 2 years, the legislature goes into lame duck and they seem to pass all these crazy bills. What are the things that we should be focused on trying to organize and push back against? And the results probably they didn't surprise me and they probably won't surprise you guys, but a lot of folks really want us to focus on equal rights and equal justice issues. So issues around LGBT rights, issues around women's access to healthcare, issues around civil rights for people of color and for immigrants were the top things. And then the other thing that our members are really concerned about is voting rights, and particularly in Ohio, because our state is so gerrymandered, a lot of people feel like particularly in congressional races and state legislative races, that their vote doesn't really matter because the districts are so manipulated in a way that you're either in a super Democratic district or you're in a super Republican district. And so trying, the best that we can to support efforts to get redistricting reform on the ballot, but then also just trying to do what we can to register more people to vote so that, Democrats could potentially take control of apportionment and draw fair districts was really important to our members. So, a lot of folks are focused on some other things, but for us, we've primarily focused our engagement at the legislative level on those issues.
It seems like Ohio, I'm not sure if it's losing population or just proportional population, but I know in 2010 Ohio lost a couple of electoral votes and it's on pace right now to lose another one in 2020. Is that sort of thing worrisome to the Young Democrats, that likely with that kind of population movement, it's often young people that are leaving the state. And, is that something that you're seeing and you're worrying about?